Alrighty, Professor Mordecai, thank you for your time. I'm here to present the neurobiology of empathy, brain mechanisms, and social implications. I have some quotes that have been really working for me. There's no me without you. And we're all tied together in a single garment of destiny. Dr. Martin Luther King and Rebecca Yarros. Rebecca Yarros is the author of the Fourth Wind fantasy series that I've not read, but I deeply respect, and just a little bit of some thoughts about empathic relating. Empathy is what allows us to move outside of our own self-centered experience and engage in a meaningful way with the internal states of those around us. There's many components that have been able to be distinctly identified through brain mapping and MRIs. Emotional cognition, sympathetic concern, and empathic perspective taking. Emotional contagion is like the first, most basic level when an individual has some effect from another's emotional or psychological state. Sympathetic concern is in the same thing, some effect of another's emotional state, in addition to a bit of an assessment about what's going on and what might fix this. Empathic perspective taking allows the person who's experiencing it to model and understand another person's point of view. So it's a more integration from a feeling state to a cognitive state. And on that note, there's also been two other differentiations to categorize empathy, and one is emotional. It's a feeling of resonance with another, emotional field resonance, like you are sad, I'm sad. Cognitive empathy, the ability to intellectually comprehend another's mental state. They're sad, I understand that they're sad. There are a few key regions in the brain that make all this happen. The anterior insula, emotional awareness and interoception. Somebody's upset, this part helps us resonate with their pain, allows us to feel a tiny semblance of, in this case, the grief of losing a loved one. The anterior cingulate cortex, pain processing, emotional regulation, social analysis, ability to read the room. When we witness someone else's pain, this part becomes active, and we integrate some understanding of the other's experience, so we digest it a little. A friend or colleague is upset about failing something, and we gauge, using this part of our brain, the ACC, how to respond to this in an appropriate way. The prefrontal cortex, essential for empathy in all sorts of ways, but especially in the perspective taking, moral reasoning, allows us to have a moral orientation to social situations, but that includes the ability to discern and have judgment about equity. This may not seem like an essential function of empathy, but the part of us that learns that somebody was wronged, if it's not followed by the prefrontal cortex firing, where we're digesting and feeling our friends' feelings, if we don't have that prefrontal cortex, we will probably just go stab the person who wronged our friend, because my friend was hurting, so now I will hurt you. An eye for an eye is what we would do if we didn't have a prefrontal cortex. There's absolutely no world in which I'm pronouncing this word. I tried already, it didn't happen, so we're going to call it the TPJ. Plays a vital role in empathy by facilitating theory of the mind. That's a part of a system of the brain and the distinction between self and other. So it's in charge of this state and activates when the individuals are engaged in tasks that require them to understand others' behaviors, intentions, and emotions. Understand other people's as separate from our own feelings and supporting a greater empathetic range. A friend is excited about a new job. This part of our brain helps us hold happiness and excitement for them while also holding if we have upset about our own job choices, like this part of the brain helps us differentiate that those two are not the same. I can be excited about my friend and still have hard feelings about my job, and they don't need to become one. To become one would be somebody comes to me and says, oh my God, I got a new job. And I respond like, how dare you? You know how much I'm suffering at my job. Why would you tell me that? Mirror neuron systems, we learned that these exist from watching monkeys with brain scans. We could see the MRI scans. We could see that they were having the same part of their brain fire when they held something, articulated it, moved it with their hand. The same parts of their brain were firing to watch another monkey do those actions as it was when they did the action. So to watch, there's certain parts of the brain that I'm pretty sure that's part of how we to mirror is how we learn how to walk and crawl and all those things. It's also part of the empathy attunement of what's out of, like, bringing in what's outside of me. And there's a bunch of hormonal influences. Oxytocin, crucial for social bonding, trust, and empathy. It's produced in the hypothalamus. It's released during social interactions, especially hugging, childbirth, breastfeeding. Serotonin, mood regulator, influences our behavior because we want to feel good, so we move towards activities that create serotonin. It is made or synthesized in the intestines. Eat your fiber. It's involved in various physiological functions. So it's just there. It's present. If we want to, there's a study that showed that in my paper that people with depression had significantly decreased rates of capacity for empathy because depression is also low serotonin. Dopamine is a transmitter. Got the reward system. When I do things that feel good, I get rewarded and I feel good. Motivates us to act in ways that are good towards our neighbor. Dopamine is part of why, like, one of the AA slogans is like to be of service to other people. That's not an exact slogan, but one of their like core principles is to be of service because that creates dopamine from the brain's reward system. It's a social behavior that comes from empathetic action. So there's something big that I took away from my research. I went in at the beginning assuming that all empathy is good empathy. And I learned that through true studies, I guess those are peer-reviewed studies, that our instinctive tendency is to care more for those close to us. And that is rooted very much in our evolutionary process. So to care for this is me as in all of us, and my capacity for empathy is first and foremost to my in-group. But something else, tried and true and observed in the studies, is that biases don't mean we're merely victims to the biology, to these synapses. We're not destined to just stay empathetic and within our in-groups as far as our ability to understand or create bridges to feel for others. While our genetic predisposition may influence our behaviors, they do not define our futures. Our genes do not dictate our destiny. They offer a starting point, not a conclusion. I feel like that's just something that I came away with very important. Like for me, my in-group could look like all kinds of things right now. It's people in my family. It's my friends. It's all queers in Seattle. It's immigrants navigating ICE. It's Palestinians. Like, it's Irish immigrants. It's like whatever things that are part of my identity can be involved in my in-group. It's not literally just my family. And so something to learn here for me about what that means as far as my instinctive tendencies and what growing bigger than that is. I don't know, that's a side project. Another thing I learned in my research that I didn't get to integrate into my paper is that there's research in 2025, a very small study has been done to, and this is a working hypothesis, is that there is the capacity to test and evaluate people's empathetic capacities while their brain is in rest. All of the ways of testing and studying empathy is through questionnaires right now, questionnaires and brain scans, and watching images or hearing stories, an active engagement with the brain. And so this is really formative, and something I'm going to keep an eye on. But the groups that need these kind of evaluations the most to support their well-being are people who are highly autistic or schizophrenic, and they're not very reliable to be able to test those folks through quizzes or self-evaluation, which is mostly a very I don't think it's a very strong way to it feels a bit subjective way to evaluate empathy. And there's just recently they're able to figure out how to potentially study. There was a study done with 50 humans. So more on that another time. Thank you for your time, and here's a little bit of empathy in the corner here. Okay, take care.